Some of the most dangerous people in the world are the ones left with their own thoughts. They kind of just sit there, they think, wow, what the hell am I doing? Or maybe I should do this. And some of these things are very erratic a lot of the times. And thinking about something that is of your own thought and being in solitude are completely different things, right? When you sit down and you think about things from the past, things that might happen in the future, things happening currently, and you have no distractions really around you, your thoughts kind of accelerate, right? You're kind of thinking in all possible directions about something. For instance, if you had a soccer game today or something, you're maybe thinking about the goal that, your friend did, or maybe you're thinking about the homework assignment that you still have to do after it, or maybe you're thinking about somebody on the sidelines or an action that happened during there. You're really thinking in all directions. And this can kind of be scary if you're alone, right? You have nothing else to really think about, and it might lead you to pure insanity, which I think is like the first kind of big leap that comes with being alone with your own thoughts. Nobody else is there to talk to you, no one else is there to have any input. It's just you and yourself in a room or whatever you are, replaying kind of experiences in your head. And I think one of the big things that comes out of this, that comes out when we start to think about very like abstract topics, is trauma, right? If a big event happens in your life, and that's why I have this kind of action cycle down here, if a big event happens in your life, you're probably going to think about some sort of trauma associated with it. You might think, oh, this is my fault, or, this happened in the past, and now this certain thing is happening in the future. What went wrong? What happened? Is it my fault? Sort of thing. You kind of try to take the blame on yourself, or you think about all these things that happened and how you could have done something better, or what could you have done differently. And these kind of lead to a bunch of very erratic decisions that we would see. And I'll explain what I mean by that a bit later. But that's kind of just like crazy decision making that happens. Uh, a good example of this a lot of the times is school shootings. Now, I hate to mention this, this is not a topic I like to bring up, but we will generally see some background with the people that take action in these sort of places are left with their own thoughts a lot of the time and with access to something that they shouldn't have, right? And because their thoughts are all crazy and they're not all mentally there, it's pure insanity, like literally like the Joker. And so one of their thoughts is to go do the action that they did, right? That is pure insanity, right? That is not a rational thought that just comes out of any person's head. It's the thought that comes out of somebody who's alone with a lot of trauma, or um, whatever it is that they may be thinking, that is like the path that they chose to take. In any case, this usually stems from having, I don't know, three sort of outcomes that I have outlined here. Is one, you just completely seclude yourself from the world. Two, you sabotage yourself in some sort of way, and this leads to aggression or just complete seclusion. They're kind of all tied together in some sort of way. And yeah, it's really not a good place to be because almost certainly all the times it mostly leads to sabotage, um, which is just destroying your entire life with a single action or multiple actions over time or prolonging it. So I would say, let me go over here and write something down. So I would say there's like three main types of, I guess, like people, I guess we would see when they get into pure insanity, kind of like the actions that they take. As one is the obsessive fixer. I would call it somebody who obsessed over consistently improving their life and blocking everyone out, being secluded, but not really aggressive, just trying to fix everything. And typically they are somewhat successful. But at a cost, right? You're kind of putting yourself off from everyone and you're trying to fix everything. So only for a fixed period amount of time, you still might feel down in the dumps, but you're consistently improving, right? The second one is just the destroyer, right? They just completely destroy their life through erratic decisions. Um, that is kind of just that person. Um, what they do, they just think. They're alone with their thoughts. Nothing gets better. They're always consistently alone with their thoughts, and it leads to one decision which probably destroys their entire life, or over the course of a very long time. I guess like two examples are like gambling and drinking. I guess over a long period of time, that will not really end up the best for you, right? Actually, I think I lied. I think these are only the two main types. Somebody who attempts to fix and somebody who destroys. Um, alongside their thoughts to make an action. So there's the action to fix and there's the action to destroy. There's kind of no in between. It's either you do something or you don't, right? So yeah, and this kind of pairs a little bit with trauma, I think, right? If you have any sort of trauma or any sort of event that you still know today and you know, oh, that was really bad. Um, I'll give Kanye West as an example later. You have a bad event that kind of leads to some thoughts. It doesn't actually have to be a bad event in particular, but I would say that that probably triggers things the most, right? I don't know if a parent passes away or something like that. You're probably gonna think about it a little bit, right? You're gonna like what happened in the past, the future, etc. Could have some thoughts, and that might adds a little bit of trauma to it. One, the event adds some trauma to it, right? And the second trauma is kind of everything that happened before that resulting to your parent passing away. I mean, not necessarily, the bad event was caused by a lot of trauma previously, but more so, what are other bad things that have happened in my life that I could be thinking about? Those are kind of just the thoughts. And these are the two paths that I was talking about. So path one, path two. Or no, it should be two and one because one is like just motivation or like obsessive fixing, and the second path is like destruction. Just completely don't care about what anything happens. I'm just gonna do what I continue I've been doing, make erratic decisions, and nothing in my life is ever going to improve. So yeah, an example of this is like not necessarily like this image with like people at the gym, but for somebody who doesn't see a lot of progress in the gym or something, they tend to think, how can I improve? What can I be doing? Or they kind of give up and they destroy their life and they get really fat and then they stop, sort of thing. Um, this doesn't necessarily have to be with like alone with your thoughts and thinking about it, but I think it's like a very mild point in between the two, right? It's either you destroy your entire physique or you get back in the gym and you consistently try to obsess over it and improve it, right? These are just very two common pathways that we see. It's also just with people who work extremely hard to get into the position that they are in, or they destroy their entire life. And the extreme about this is a lot of the times it requires for you to be alone and thinking about it. Now, the issue with that is there is a possibility that you destroy your entire life in the process of that because you just go towards erratic thoughts and the trauma is too much for you to bear and that you just don't care anymore, right? And so like these are like kind of thoughts, right? Like my parents have passed away. It's my fault. I'm lonely. I've wasted my entire life, and that is extremely dangerous. Like these are the most dangerous people that I have know, or some in my cases, I've seen both in my lifetime. People who have destroyed their life over an obsession, or people who have obsessed over it so much to the point that they have become successful. It's kind of like is goes both ways, right? So yeah, I would say this is like a decent, like more mild example. I think Kanye West. Actually, Let's talk about erratic action first because I think that's pretty important to know about here. When you reach this sort of like lonely into state of insanity, your mind is racing. Um, and an example that I have is when somebody does an erratic action that is so severe that it captures a lot of attention. This is how we know about it, right? People say, I know this person for doing like XYZ, they are so nice, etc., or whatever. Let's say like they were aggressive or something. They say, I could have never seen this person doing this, or him doing this, her, whatever it may be. That kind of gives me a hint at this person has been thinking a lot about their actions preemptively, or that they have reached like a state of insanity where they did not care and it does not matter what they did or could do, and that this is fueled by past trauma or something that happened initially recently, right? That is like the equivalent term in like I guess like investigation is and stuff like that is like what is their motivation for doing such a thing? What could have led this person to do it? And a lot of the times it starts with this initial thing, right, of insanity where you stop, you think, You have all this stuff that happened, which is triggered by an initial event, and then that sort of like click happens where you either obsessively take action or you destroy everything. And there's two differences I want to make here. Is one is you are consumed by your thoughts or you are thinking, right? Consumed by your thoughts is like you have reached a point where it does not matter anything that anyone tells you. You're solidified by the ideas in your head, and you take action on that. Thinking about them is being constructive in a way where you absorb all of your thoughts, you're thinking about them, but you have not yet committed or made a decision to do something about it, or you are simply reflecting on it, right? That's kind of like solitude. And this point of erratic action is the point where people like, you hear in movies or you hear people say like the phrase, he's losing it, right? Or he's lost it, right? It's used in movies a lot, right? And that usually, these sort of actions are typically associated with like destructive behaviors, right? Like these, like gambling or drinking, or like two common ones are smoking or something like that, right? So these are like the erratic actions and behaviors. And so I kind of like have this little chart here is like, choose a path, which one am I going to take, right? And like you're either one, like the obsessive fixer, or like somebody who's like um in a state of solitude where they can make a rational decision, or you just destroy your entire life and you become like a demon, right? um and I think when I'm saying like destroy your life, I just mean an extremely erratic action that causes you to lose the trust of others and the trust of yourself, to a point where you're just notably not a good person by the standards of whatever morals and things like that, right? If I take an action and I drink and drive and I have somebody in my other seat and I crash and this other person passes away and I'm still alive, I feel a lot on me, right? That is like an erratic action, and the people related to that person probably don't trust me too much, right? Another thing could be that, I don't know, you gamble so much that you lose the house, right? That is like an example that is given in like a lot of movies and stuff, but people have done it before, right? You lose everything financially there. You use something like in your life. I don't know. There's probably like other examples that are like mentally or something that relationships with other people. A lot of the time, it has to do with your surroundings rather than yourself. And obviously, you can take drastic, measures and things on yourself, but most of the time, it deals with your surroundings. And the example that I want to give here is Kanye West. I think is a pretty good example here because if you knew Kanye West before all of the shenanigans he's done on Twitter and stuff like that, you would say he was probably a decent person, pretty well respected for his music until I guess like what you would call controversial, right? Um, so I took a look into it, right? In 2007, Kanye's mom passed away, and this kind of triggered his like insanity point, like I said, right? And he was diagnosed with bipolar, I think, or something like that. And then when he was diagnosed, he kind of just free flow and let his erratic behavior spiral out. Now, keep in mind, Kanye at this point was already in a position where he had a lot of influence, I guess, like within rap or music in general, because it was not as mainstream as it was today. I mean, obviously, you had like R&B and pop and stuff like that, which was big, but this is the time where, I guess, in the digital age, people were not more influential if you were very early on, like Kanye was. And so this kind of erratic behavior had a lot of impact on his like label and record or who he was. But I guess instead of letting that spiral into destruction, he kind of enhanced it in a way where people kind of embraced this sort of thing. So he kind of had this like internal world of himself that he was projecting to other people that was unregulated, and it somewhat worked out for him, I guess. He's technically more popular than he has ever been because of this. As for likability, it's definitely questionable. But I would say this is a pretty decent example about somebody who is an obsessive fixer for sure. Um, Definitely not a destruction type person. So yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about today because you kind of see it a lot on social media. People who are obsessive fixers, or people who have had events done in the past that they want to fix, or sometimes you will see on the news about very tragic events that's caused by a person, and those people are destructors. So yeah, hopefully you can think about this sort of subject without letting your thoughts win and lead you into destruction. And I hope this helps you and finds you the right path for you to proceed on with your life. check out the description. We have our own Discord if you want to chat with other people. And yeah.